Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me, first of all. As you know, we released the Indian Wheel of Power and Powerlessness in the month of July. And starting this month, we're doing a deep dive into each individual identity within the wheel. We are starting off with gender identity and its interactions with sexual orientation, as well as relationship status. In the upcoming months, we will also be looking at each of these identities separately and individually as well. So, I guess my first question to you is, as a social worker and development professional, when you enter a community that you're working for, you most likely enter holding a position of power and privilege as a service provider, right? And I wonder if this comes in conflict with your personal identity. And if it does, how does that play out for you?
Oh, Ganga, these women that I work with, they are also a gender sexual minority in the sense they are also sex workers. So there is a certain level of transparency and comfort amongst the groups, to some extent they understand that our NGO works for GSM people, for gender sexual minorities, which includes, LGBT folks and it includes women sex workers. But when it came to, about my own identity, not as a project team member, but as a person myself, uh, so to give you like an example, uh, so I work with children. These are children who are sex workers, kids, and the sex workers, the mothers are our beneficiaries. So, and we support the kids with education and, like we help the mothers with childcare. Basically, that's the program. So, of course, there is a lot of love and respect that, I automatically get without doing anything for it, just by virtue of what I am bringing to the table. Everyone tends to bring a lot of respect to you. And however, this project has been going on for almost a year now, and I am also slowly getting closer and closer to the children, and I'm getting closer and closer to the mothers. And, conversations come up regarding me, regarding who I am, where I am, why am I not married? I'm 34, and it's a little uncanny for people to understand that I'm not married or even that I'm not in a relationship. And I know that these are things that can be shrugged off, but they pile on over a period of time, including even the children, because I have a very friendly relationship with them. So, like the teenage ones, they'll tell me about their crush, or they'll tell me if some other child is having like some affair in the group or something like that. They gossip with me, and then they ask me that, Akka, what about you? Do you have a boyfriend? And every time this conversation comes up, I feel extremely powerless because I feel like, one is that, of course, I'm coming with all the power that I'm bringing, which is to be able to, serve them, to be able to support them. And that's a huge amount of power in my hand. And, but at the same time, like in some kind of a juxtaposition, in that moment, I feel like I don't have the power, and the power rests with people who are a little more, how do I say, quote unquote, normative. Yes, yeah, normal. And at that moment, like all the power that I am bringing as compared to my people I am working for, even with all that power, I feel completely powerless. And it's sad because if I have to discuss this with them, there is a huge chance of backlash. We don't know how families feel about these things. I cannot, interject my gender politics into the project that I am doing. And the last thing I want is for the kids to not get what they are getting. And it also brings like this layer of shame, Ganga, shame about who I am because I'm not able to tell you. And it reminds me all over again, no matter how out I am to the rest of the world, that there is always going to be this shame that you have to carry along with the label. And That I guess is the powerlessness I had felt.
Yeah. I was just wondering if you could delve a little bit into the shame that you feel, right? Do you feel compelled to share your gender identity, your orientation, with the children? Do you have apprehensions about, do they even have a foundational understanding, for instance, of, gender as a
Yeah,
construct, right?
yeah,
Because it's such a
absolutely.
binary when it's taught in schools, and I'm guessing these are young children.
Yes, yeah, these are children between the age of 6 and 15. They are very young. And the use of the word shame that I brought up, Ganga, it's like when I am thinking, okay, it's not like I'm compelled to come out to anybody, but coming out is only the natural expression, right? Like if I am chit chatting with you and you're telling me about the crush you have, and you ask me, I want to be able to tell you that, you know what, I actually like girls and I have a crush on that girl. But that honesty is never possible without a lot of back check. And, like you said, they have no initiation into this conversation. And more than anything else, because unfortunately, because working class people have not listened to this narrative yet or haven't been a part of this conversation, they still see it as something dirty, as something perverted. And I'm working with children, and queer people are easily called out on being pedophiles, even. And all of these layers of shame and guilt, just keep popping up. And oh my God, if they know who I really am, they are going to take their kids away from me. So the same person who they love so much and respect so much and trust with their children so much, but if they know who I really am, they're going to take those same children away from me. So that is the painful part, Ganga.
It's a very
Yeah,
conflicting position to hold.
yeah.
How do you navigate it personally? Did you mention?
I don't know what is the right way to navigate it, but what I do is, I tell myself that it's okay. You don't have to come out. You can just, pretend to go through the world like an asexual agender person. If you want your work done. And only people who truly understand you or are quote unquote from a certain section of society who are privy to this narrative or privy to this conversation, only then you can come out. But again, those are fear, like words of fear. I am very, very out. So this is the first time I'm having to go back into the closet after since I have come out, which has been close to 10 years ago, So the barrier is very difficult to cross. What I do is I literally have to um, ignore what I want. And that's why I said I don't know, what is the best way to do this, because what I do is I just push back my own need, my own identity, and be like, you know what, it's okay. Doesn't matter what if you were a cardboard cutout. The thing is, I can't be my full self. That's all. But I guess that's the price I have to pay to get with my work, like get my work done. Not a nice thing, but it is what it is.
What is the perfect ecosystem that you imagine or
Hmm.
envision
Hmm.
to be
Yeah.
helpful?
Yeah, Ganga, honestly speaking, that is up to the government of this country because they are the ones who decriminalized the community in 2018. I'm sorry, I'm going to get a little political on this, but in 2018 as well, when they decriminalized the community, it was the Supreme Court who did that. The government of India, the administration at that point in time, after repeated requests from the Supreme Court, did not support the judgment. Now, the Supreme Court's judgment said very clearly that this judgment is not going to help anybody until and unless on the ground the government implements sensitization. Public service announcements, advertisements, newspaper advertisements, training the ASHA workers on gender and sexuality, just to take it down to the last leg of society. And none of that has been done whatsoever. So, ideally, it is the government's job to educate people. But since that is not going to happen, Ganga, what my plan is in the upcoming future is I am going to start creating very robust but simple conversation models to discuss this with people, with working class people, with people who have not had the opportunity, privilege to listen to this. And it's not fair for us to consider them to be homophobes when we are not even giving them the opportunity to understand. So what I want to do is I want to take this to the ground. I want to educate people on the existence of different identities, and I want to tell them our history. I want to tell them this is nothing new. This is not from America. This is as old as human beings. But again, we can only reach so many people. The bigger responsibility lies on the system. But yeah, for myself, Ganga, that's the plan, to hold these talks in small circles, begin with the mothers, begin with the NGO workers, begin with the CBO workers. And if I can get them on board in some aspect, I don't have to worry about the children anymore. So my dream is that one day when I come out to them, they're going to understand how normal queer people are. That it's not what you think in your mind, that it's some weird creature who's coming out of it. Could be someone living next door.